$250 and a $25 tip. $275. And all he had to do was let this guy shave his... A lot of the sex I had in the taxi was for play. If I didn't make enough money on the meter, I made it in the back seat.
You were in the Vietnam War, and that changed your perspective on everything.
I volunteered. I volunteered to go to Vietnam. You know, look what's happening in Palestine. You know, some of them in the IDF, which I thought was the greatest army and the greatest country in the world. Forget that. Whatever the U.S. accuses any other country, any country, of doing, they're doing. When you worry about what other people think of you, you will always be their prisoner. Time for jailbreak.
Welcome back to Uncensored Tomie fans. Today we're sitting down with the queen of Hell's Kitchen, Renee Imperato. Born and raised in New York City, Renee is a proud anti-racist, pro-union trans woman who has spent her entire life fighting for justice and being an iconic kinkster. She's a Vietnam War veteran whose experiences sparked lifelong commitment to activism. Renee doesn't just share stories, she connects them to the larger struggle for liberation, community, and truth. This conversation is powerful, personal, and filled with New York City history you cannot Google. Let's jump in. And as always, for the unfiltered version of this episode, the parts we cannot air on YouTube, head over to my Patreon. Renee, welcome to Uncensored. Thank you so much for being here. Renee, for those meeting you for the very first time, you're considered a true New York City legend in the LGBTQ plus community. What does it mean to be an elderly transgender woman in a generation where so many didn't make it this far?
Oh, tell me about it. You know, I often get asked by some people in a lower age group than myself. They'll ask me, Renee, or Mama, which is, you know, probably more people call me Mama now. Where are all the people in your I don't like generation, you know? I find sometimes people in my so-called generation more difficult to speak to, I hate to say it, than people 45, 50 years younger than me. And they say, you know, why aren't there more of you? And my answer is one word: AIDS. So, I'll tell you the truth. I didn't even I remember the first time I was called Mama, I must have been like 60. And I was like, you know, because I don't think my so-called age, it's just the body parts need replacing. But I've actually gotten into it now. At first it seemed like awkward for me to think that way. But now, what can I say? My map is long. And, you know, they did a Dirty magazine. Mm-hmm. Did you see the centerfold they did of me?
I did, yes.
I mean, to be introduced to people as the dirtiest in New York City, I mean, you know, that was noticeable. But I am proud to be, sometimes I feel I don't deserve the praise that people heap upon me. But I'm proud to be still here, or if I can quote Miss Major, still here.
Mm-hmm. And you were born in Hell's Kitchen in 1948.
Correct.
What was the New York City of your childhood like, especially growing around the theater world?
I have to say that, you know, my mother had a store on 44th Street. She made wigs and toupees for a lot of people in the theater and stuff. Man, I was the luckiest kid in New York, man. I mean, to be brought up in the theater district, my God. My mother used to give me $3 a week allowance, and most of the time I would buy 2 theater tickets with the $3. I'd go to the theater every week. I used to do deliveries, the mustaches, the toupees for people. I knew probably from 42nd to 57th, from the Hudson River to Grand Central. I knew where everything was, And I must say that it was, there was places where working people could eat. You know what I mean? And Hell's Kitchen was so funky. I drove a taxi. That's how I started in this business. And I had all the places that I would go, which if I was in an area, where's the pizza best here, or the Chinese takeout, that's all gone. Really it is. There's a couple of rare spots, like I mentioned, the Cowgirl in the Village.
Yeah, and that's where we got our first lunch.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right.
This was like 3 years ago, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah, 3-4 years ago. Yeah, Renee told me, and she said we have to definitely try this like New York spot that's been around forever. So many has been torn down, replaced, gentrified, but the Cowgirl has been around for
still here,
still on the block. Yeah,
the Monster is still here. Henrietta's is still here. I think with the Cowgirl, they've been there since '89, and I think they happened to sign a long lease, years ago. I worked in this bakery, Whole Earth Bakery and Kitchen. They opened in 1983. You know how long their lease was? 30 years.
That's a crazy lease.
Oh, landlord would kiss your ass down. Now, you're lucky to get 3 years, But like I said, there's a few places, but there's not a broad avenue to choose from. It's really unfortunate. Probably one of the things I miss the most.
Yeah. And I would love to know, in those early days, what were the early signs that your gender didn't match the role you were expected to play?
What were the places or the areas?
No, your sort of the gender identity part of it. Were there any early signs that that you were like, I think I'm different from what is expected of me?
Right, compared to now.
Yeah.
Right. So now we're going to get into the. Sometimes I wish I could put you in a time machine, take you back to Hell's Kitchen, 1973, 74. And the first trans club I went to, by the way, language of the day, we didn't have all these terms, Most of the time you were either, some people used, dress up or cross-dresser. But the two main terms, drag queen, drag king, And I can tell you this, back then, we were all drag queens. And it didn't have anything to do with, whether you did a show once a month or twice a month, or I know people drag queens 365 days a year, 24/7. But languages evolve. Like back then, actually, even back then, the term transvestite was sort of diminishing, even in the early mid-'70s. You heard it a little bit. And back then, there were two terms. First of all, And it's kind of broader than it should be. It doesn't apply to everybody. But transvestite, to many people, sort of meant you were pre-op. Mm-hmm. And transsexual meant that you were post-op. That's all out the window now. Mm-hmm. Back then, I would say that the most that you really faced was ridicule, until recent years. I often tell people a quote from ancient China, like the 5th century. I kind of twisted it around to apply specifically mostly to trans people. And my quote is this: when you worry about what other people think of you, you will always be their prisoner. Time for jailbreak. Mm-hmm. So, somewhere years ago, I joined what we call the I Don't Give a Club, right? Until I met this trans girl, Simone, at the center. And she said, oh, I used to be in that club. She goes, I'm in the next club after that. I said, what is that? She said, watch me not give a and that's the real freedom. I don't mean to be cruel, but sometimes you see, a humanoid-shaped slab of flesh, leaning on a lamp, and they say something to you. And I had my moments. I'm not going to lie. And you just got to look and think, an ignorant slab of flesh. I give a what they think, Now, of course, starting in the late 80s, I used to carry an axe in my purse. Her name was Lucille. Mm-hmm. I never actually used it. I did display it, though. And it kept me from being or murdered or worse. Because you know what it is? You know what it is about an axe? It wasn't the biggest axe, It's psychological. You can have a big knife like this, and for some reason, it's not as intimidating as an axe.
Yeah. When Renee and I had our, I think, second lunch, her advice to me was, to protect yourself, don't bring a gun because that can go everywhere. Bring an axe to intimidate them, and don't use a human pepper spray. Use a bear spray if you need to protect yourself. And I still remember what you said, because it's like, okay, the mother can try to kill me, but they're not going to go down with a cheek intact.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I know some people who are nervous about carrying something, and I'm like, come on. You have a right to defend yourself. That's not violence. That's self-defense. And by the way, do you know this story about the drag queen story hour in North Texas? I think it was in September.
I think, I think I saw on the news. Yeah, but you can please share.
Where the Proud Boys showed up
mm-hmm.
with guns. Mm-hmm. And this little theater. And when the Proud Boys turned the corner, what did they see? Texas drag queens with guns. Don't with them girls, honey. Mm-hmm. I just wish I could have seen it,
Yeah.
They didn't hang around too long, They kind of departed.
Yeah. Did want to talk about safety. You started sex work when you were driving taxis, and you were a
Right.
taxi driver for 20 years. What was it
A
like
little more than
working,
that,
a little more than that, yeah. What was it like keeping yourself safe? How did you hustle the streets of New York when you were a taxi driver?
Um, well, even then, well, I had Lucille under the seat. My personal safety was not as much in the taxi, frankly. I mean, especially where the clubs I was working, people would get in and say, "Oh, she's driving." And so a lot of times most of my passengers, who came from the same slice of pie that I came from, that was easy, walking the street. And, I mean, really, you see, walking the street, well, maybe I should relate it this way. I started doing sex work in the taxi in the late 70s. I was driving, 5 or 6 years already. I wasn't doing any. And then I was getting hit on by people. And I mean, let me tell you, the money you could make for hardly doing anything. I mean, I can give you a couple examples.
Give some examples, please.
Okay, so, well, let me give you one example. I kind of had this boyfriend, sex worker, who worked the strip. I don't know if you're familiar with 53rd Street between 2nd and 3rd. A lot of male prostitutes, and he was one. And we were sort of competing for this one guy on the sidewalk. But I was doing it from my taxi, and they were talking to me until this Adonis walked up. His name was Peter. It wasn't Peter, but I'm using that name. And he beat me out for the trick, right? It was a friendly encounter.
Yeah. How did he beat you out?
Honey, that boy, it happens, It really
Yeah.
does. Listen, you know this. The avenue of people, like the people I could never get compared to somebody who's like 20 years old and a perfect body, I ain't getting that. But they can't always get what I get.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, the next day, I seen him again. We start talking. Before you know it, he's riding shotgun in the front seat. I'll give you one example. This is 1990, Tomie. Okay? Like, he had this one guy, and $250 and a $25 tip. $275. And all he had to do was let this guy shave his. Like what, 10, 15? I mean, talk about easy money. I might do that shit now. So you figure if you had to like equate with inflation and everything, 275 in 1990, what would that be now? Do you know what that would be?
I can look it up. I'll look it up
I
right
think
now.
it's about $800.
275 in 1990 USD in 1992. That is going to be close to 700 today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's easy money. I mean, the kind of people you get in the taxi, like they come out of Edelweiss or Gigi Knickerbocker or Sally's. Sally's was, if you saw Paris is Burning, the people hanging out on the sidewalk, it was either the garage or it was Sally's on 43rd between 7th and 8th. And Sally used to be the head person at the 220 Club, which is thought to be the first known drag queen trans after hours club on Houston Street. I worked there. Oh, yeah, you want stories? Listen, we could be here a while.
Yeah, give maybe like let's hear one story that really stands out to you when you were working Houston.
Well, people had shot through the front door. And one of the guys I was working with, Angel, got shot in the leg. And, you know, the boys owned the club. You know what I'm talking about. If you weren't on the list, they could be some of the best people to work for. I'll tell you right now, you know. They're always defined as organized crime.
Mm-hmm. And for people who don't know who the boys are, can you explain to the audience?
Well, the Mafia, you know. I mean, I'll give you an example. Angel was shot in the leg. Couldn't work for like, at least it was 2 weeks. You know, if you get hurt on a job now in a factory of a big business, you could lose your leg. You ain't getting your first week's pay.
Yeah.
Right? And Angel, who, by the way, was black, right? He was married. He had a couple kids. They took care of everything. There's, in some ways, this loyalty. And I'm not saying everybody is an angel. But, well, he got his pay. They go shopping food for the family, deliver it to his house, his wife's house. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah, all the dungeons in the early days were run by the mafia. I think this is kind of like the oral history that doesn't get talked about a lot. Before we hit the like early 2000s into like the 2010s, it was all Mafia-run.
Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah.
And you know what? I got to say this. They might have been the best people I ever worked for. That's kind of when I got to know the
Hell yeah.
Paris is Burning girls
Yeah.
who raised me. They
Yeah.
were my parents, even if they were younger in number. And, you know, you'd get these guys. I mean, first of all, everybody who works in these clubs, you're not John, you're not Tom, you know, you're not Bob, you're Bobby, Tony, Jimmy, Joey, hey. And I want to tell you something. If you weren't on the list, those guys, they would treat you like gold.
That's what I've heard
Hey,
too.
baby, you need a drink? You know, hey,
Yeah.
how you doing? You need some money? You know, here, take this 20. A 20 then was like a 50, you know? And I mean, a lot of these guys, you know, early guys, they had like wrists, like their fingers were the size of my wrist. And they charm you, date you, do all that. And then later they want you to them. Because the demographic basically reflect general society, you know? And I worked with legends in these clubs. Stormy Delavere, Marcia, Sylvia, Major, they were all, you know, in there. I was the luckiest girl in the world, honey. Let me tell you something. They raised me. Black and Latinx drag queens raised me. I could get emotional about it sometimes. Because, you know, so many of them didn't make it. But we had danger in the clubs, you know, like, you know, Angel getting shot. I remember one night, I'll tell you this story. We had a guy, first of all, when I first started working in the 220, It was on the second floor, right across the street from the Film Forum, right across. And it was on the second floor, and there was the bouncer, the door person downstairs on the street level. He was known as Blonde Frankie, right? Blonde Frankie was on the door the night of the Stonewall Rebellion at the Stonewall. Nice guy. Tony up. I mean, Frankie. And what happened was the Hells Angels showed up, and he let them in. They went upstairs, and they went for every drag queen who fought back. But, we took casualties. It happened to be, I was working 6 nights a week. It was the one night, it was a Tuesday. I could never forget it. And I woke up, so I wasn't there that night, right? And they took their lumps. Girls took their shoes off and used their heels, And so I heard about it. I want to tell you something. And I don't care. Any motherfucking Hells Angels wants to challenge me. They can kiss my ass. Got that? The next night, Caravan went to the building owned by Hells Angels. 3rd Street between 1st and 2nd, right? It was either 2 or 3 cars. Knocked on the front door. They came to the door. And a person I'm not going to identify said, "You come to our club again, and we're coming back, and we're going to burn this motherfucker to the ground." Never saw him again, Tomie. So, I got 100 stories. You kidding?
Yeah, I love talking to you because at the end of the day in this industry, it's really community protects community. Like, the police doesn't do it, the government doesn't do it, we have to do it for each other. And I think that has always held strong in the New York scene.
We love our people.
We do. Whenever I talk to even new doms, they're like, the New York scene has always been so supportive. And it's completely different from the rest of the country because of this long history of queer folks holding people together.
I agree.
Of other unregulated industries holding people together and paying in cash because that's how the economy works. And when we don't get hired, it's all of us passing the same $5 around to each other.
I always like cash. Seriously. And I'll tell you, there's warning signs about this, crypto and, I know girls that didn't get their money right away because it's coming from Cyprus or some.
Yeah.
Me? Cash money, honey.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I have a story about that. One of my friends was supposed to get paid high. Like, this guy owed her $100K. He didn't pay, and she's like, "What?
$100K a session?"
No, $100K. It was an arrangement.
Oh.
And he didn't pay. He bailed after she did her month, right?
Oh, okay.
And she's like, "What do I do? What do I do?" I was like, "It's unregulated. You're gonna have to hire someone to get the money now, or you show up with a bunch of girls in a pipe and you get the money." That's the only there's no contract, there's no lawyers to sue him. If someone owes you money, you gotta get it at whatever the cost. And I think that spirit has held true over time in this industry. I know where the whales are, and they're on I Want Clips. For over a decade, I Want Clips has been the home for big spenders and the top earners in fetish. I've been on the platform for years, and trust me, it delivers. I've had an amazing working relationship with I Want Clips. They flew me out to put me on a truck billboard. We had an amazing Christmas and Halloween shoot. And this is the platform if you want to make it in the fetish clip industry. Join today and use code Mx Tomie for 15% off your entire cart. And if you're an artist, you'll get a whopping 90% revenue share for your first 3 months.
And actually, you know something? See, back then, I think in a lot, I mean, now I can tell you some bad stories, but I think it was safer. I really do.
Yeah, more than
I
today.
mean, my God, these motherfucking time wasters.
Uh-huh.
Jeez, and how many times you might, do a time frame, and then they ghost you, and maybe sometimes you could have had somebody that was legit for that time, and you told them you were busy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, Tomie.
Yeah, the landscape is different now. I think part of it is because sex work is becoming more normalized. So you have all these people who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to book, but I'm not serious. Whereas back in the day, you got to commit to it. If you're going to do it, you got to commit to it.
Right. And also you have people, some of them have regular jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that's a nun. I know ex-nuns. But no, it's totally different. I mean, first of all, Tomie, can you imagine? You want me to tell you about my first trick?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this guy propositions me.
Where? How? In the taxi? On the
Oh,
street?
in the taxi.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And, we're talking, 45 years ago. And the terrain, like in Chelsea and like 11th Avenue and 10th, they were, it was mostly industrial. There was not a lot of foot traffic. So we wound up, I think it was a parking lot, 29th Street, between 11th and back then, it wasn't called West Street. It was called 12th Avenue, right? I pull into this parking lot. There's no cars in the lot. It's like 2:30 in the morning, right? And we barely got started. Cop car pulls up. Thing. I'm like, oh. Cop gets out and says, so let me ask you a question. You're turning a fucking trick in a fucking parking lot, 2:30 in the morning, it's January, the lights are on, the fucking gas is coming out of the pipe in the back. You kind of stand out. And I was like, scared the shit out of the trick. And then, thankfully, I was going to get busted. I'd probably lose my job with the taxi. Oh, my God. Then some fucking emergency came up on his walkie-talkie, a robbery somewhere. He said, all right, you're lucky this time. And he takes off. I never worked in a parking lot again. Mm-hmm. I worked parked on the street. I could tell you the streets. It's like the documentary they made about me. I took the film crew to all the spots where I would pull over, where there's a movie theater on the right, there's a big tree on the left, Safe as fucking work. I mean, I'm not pounding the pavement. And you have this screen that's a taxi. And you know what? I'll tell you something. I never had a problem. And I'd pull off. I had my spots. I can tell you now. Carlton Street, Varick, around the corner. I had certain spots. And Chelsea, I'll tell you where most of my spots were. The South Village, which some people don't hear that term. The South Village is really sort of considered anything below Christopher, Morton, Barrow. But my spots actually weren't mostly in that part of the village. They would be the South Village below Houston Street, right? See, here's the way it worked out. You pull over to a curb, right? And like back then, my motto used to be, if I didn't make enough money on the meter, I made it in the back seat. Or they'd come up to the front. And I would actually want to know something. I would probably do straight taxi work. I work nights, graveyard shift. And so I would say you started making off the meter money after 1:30, 2:30, then around there, and then 4 o'clock when the clubs closed. They didn't get lucky in the fucking club. They get in my taxi, and I turn and I say, "Where we going, honey?" So, but I never got pinched. Never. And it's like, see, people walking down the street, they might know that there's something going on in the taxi. I'd say probably 85, 90%. They don't look into the cab directly because they don't want you to see them looking in. Then there's the freaks. That happens.
They're like, we'll stare for a long time.
Oh, yeah. But I usually would pause, Anyway, I tell you, it's just, you had the greatest screen in the taxi. You just did. And I'll tell you the truth. I know some people had sex, but not sex work. Now, I've had both, and it varied, depending on what time in the shift it was, how horny somebody might be, That was when you started to make your money. And, I'll tell you the truth, a lot of times I made more money off the meter than on, listen, there was no Ubers and Lyfts then. All there was 12,800 yellow taxis, and then I think Giuliani bumped it up to 13,600, right? So almost all my work.
Yeah.
If I put all my different jobs together, I probably made more money on the street than anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And did you start domination around the same time too, or was that after the taxi?
Way after.
Mm-hmm.
What
brought you into that?
See, let me put it to you this way. I was always a drag queen, but I was always a butch queen, right? And that is a prerequisite to being a dominatrix, It kind of flowed naturally. But, I'm telling you this like you don't know it already, but for the audience, I think maybe a little more now. No, maybe a little more less. The greatest drag queens I knew started out as bottoms, And I was a pro sub. I do stuff like a in place, And we had some fucking scenes. Boy, do we have scripts.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta fucking work. People don't realize, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna be a vampire? You did all this crazy shit. But you gotta know, to me, now there's exceptions to every rule, you gotta know both sides of the spectrum. When I buy a new toy, first place I use it is I use it on me. I want to know. And I have a wide variety of toys. Boy, I have this one chain whip. I did an Aorta Films workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And, one hit and you got bloodbusters on your leg.
Yeah, that thing's wicked.
Oof.
It's beautiful, though. I love a nice chain metal whip of any kind.
Another favorite of mine is the Devil's Fly Swatter. because it pivots, you know. And even a lot of times, I have people, they're so curious, but they're still kind of afraid. You know what I tell them? I said, look, I'll tell you what we can do. I'll use it on myself. I mean, I was always a pain slut, you know. And, I mean, we do those shows, there'd be blood. And then, you know, like, what was it? Was I at Hit Me Up? Not the formal Hit Me Up parties. They're, to me, not like that. We're talking about the clubs that, you know, I'm on the staff of really foreplay parties. So anyway, I think the last one I did, I didn't do one that was scheduled last Friday because, well, Miss Major's memorial was the next day and so on. So anyway, they said, we would, but we don't. I said, all right, look, I'll tell you what. I'll do myself. Not with the devil's slice one, the one that's got just a flat wooden back on one side, and then these pyramid spikes on the others.
Oh, I've seen those before. Yeah.
Yeah. Come into the 220 and start f***ing and disrespecting drag queens. Some of them didn't leave by the front door. They left by the back door. Not standing. And the other one is if you didn't pay, you know, like you wound up going to the bathroom or maybe on the pool table. And then all of a sudden, oh, I forgot my money.
Yeah.
Get it.
I think that's the thing too. Like right now, there's no organized security system for sex workers. Like so much of it is scattered, and I think part of it is due to the internet too.
That's what I meant about being more dangerous in some ways now.
It's scattered, and for people who are not in community, like they don't know how to screen, protect themselves.
Well, you know, or they threaten to dox you. They threaten to publicize who you are, to fuck up your business.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers. Let me tell you something. These motherfuckers need to die. You hear me? I'm telling you. I mean, it's terrible.
It is.
And yeah, like you said, you know, back then, I mean, and it was a lot less complicated, you know. You had like these magazines, these newspapers like Screw, you know, and you could advertise in the classified section. But for me, I mean, I had the best in the taxi, you know?
That's a good system. I want to go back in time a little bit. You were in the Vietnam War, and that changed your perspective on everything.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to know what led you to joining the military.
Oh, I can give you about 4 words. Young, white, 18, and stupid. That's what.
Were you drafted or you volunteered?
I volunteered. I volunteered to go to Vietnam.
Yeah. And what happened when you were actually on the ground and you were witnessing everything? And what changed your...
I worked for military intelligence. These are the most evil fucking people in the world. Whatever, let me tell you this. Whatever the U.S. accuses any other country, any country, of doing, they're doing. This happened all the time. I mean, massacres and genocide. And then you know what they would do? They'd wipe out whole villages of people, burn, murder, every living thing in a village. And then they would get some collaborator who would, like, say they were hiding in the bushes and they saw the NLF or the Viet Cong. Yeah, you think the Viet Cong would ever won the war? And accuse. So you'd kill, and then you'd attack them as being horrible people for killing the people you really were killing. Now you talk about hypocrite. You know, you want me to tell you one story? I'll tell you one story. I was in a brothel outside of Ho Chi Minh City. And it just turned out, I know what it was. We were past curfew and we couldn't get back to the base. So you had to sleep overnight. And there was about, I don't know, half a dozen other soldiers there. Navy, Marines, Army, Air Force. And no electricity. Our only light is candlelight, right? And I started talking to this one. This is when I really turned me. I was there about 2 months at the time. That's before I got hurt. Yeah, I was almost killed. I can tell you. I came like this close, and that was after. And here's this guy. He looked like Denzel Washington. And he started talking, and he said, "Let me tell you something. You know what this war does to you? What this war does to you is that you do the most horrible things you can imagine. And you become numb. And you have no more feelings. It doesn't even affect you anymore." And I'm looking at this guy in the candlelight, right? And as he's saying those very words, I look at him and his face is filled with tears. And I'm like, what, 19? I'm like, what the? I can see his face now like I saw it last night. And they kill every little thing. I mean, look what's happening in Palestine. Some of them in the IDF, which I thought was the greatest army and the greatest country in the world. Forget that. And what were they doing in the beginning? They were accusing the Palestinians of doing it. And when I saw this one guy, Captain Ari something, I can't remember the rest of his name, I knew they were doing it. Because like I said, when they accuse you, you're doing it. Believe me.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the My Lai massacre really deeply affected you when you were there.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I mean, we had meetings about it on post, And, by the time I left Vietnam, I was done. I joined Vietnam Veterans Against the War, the American Servicemen's Union. They were like anti-war. Well, ASU was more like active duty soldiers, right? And Vietnam vets was already out of the military. And literally took over almost the entire anti-war movement. And, the right wing then, they accused us of being fakers. We weren't even veterans. I mean, I know, and we did a thing, Dairy Canyon 3. For 1 week, we camped out in front of the Capitol. And I'm actually in a documentary called Sir, No Sir, when we threw our medals back. Like, I often think about that guy, the one that looked like Denzel Washington. Mm-hmm. What did he do to himself when he came back home? Did he do himself in?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, too, that you almost died during the war. What happened there?
Yeah, it wasn't literally any kind of combat situation, let me be honest. I was currying for OSI, or what we called, was military intelligence. And you know what it was then? I had that job about halfway through. And that is that you could see the war objectively and subjectively at the same time. I just told you one story. I have many. What happened was I was on Highway 1 and I was driving from Saigon to Benoit. And right in front of LBJ, which was called Long Bin Jail, but Johnson was president, I saw a Navy van going south, broke down. So I pulled over and I got out, and like you would see people that stand, they kind of cross the street, but then the traffic moves and they kind of stand in the dividing line, like say 34th Street. Mm-hmm. And they just stand there until the traffic passes. I used to do that all the time. I ain't even done it since. Because what I did was I walked across the street, or the road, whatever, and so now I'm standing in the middle of the road, and there was a QC on a motorcycle. QC is a military police in the South Vietnamese Army. And, I kept on noticing that this guy seemed to be veering more towards me. And he hits me right here, and knocks me in the other direction of a convoy of Army 18-wheelers, which are like, big tires like this. And I hit the rear of the trailer, and I was knocked out. And when I woke up, the ambulance that came, and the medic said to me, "You came about as close to death as possible." My head was like this far from those double wheels. You see the trailers, or you see. And then they shot me up with morphine, and then they shot themselves up with morphine. It's a war zone, Mm-hmm. So they sent me to a 3rd Army Field Hospital. I was there, I think, about a week. And then they determined I needed to be medically evacuated, on a C-141. And I went to this military hospital in Tachikawa, Japan. This is right before the Denzel Washington guy. So I'm still a little, and I'm like, oh, well, they're going to send me back to the States. I said, no, I'm going back like an idiot. And so I was there, I think, for a month. And they sent me back. And then I had been actually, what my job was before I got that first injury? I was salvaging destroyed vehicles, right? And then they transferred me to 377 HQC, which was military intelligence. And the stuff you would transport, I mean, like I said, the biggest hypocrites in the world, they probably killed their own mother. They wouldn't care. I mean.
And you were really affected. You were affected by Agent Orange when you were there too. And it's.
I have neuropathy, mm-hmm. which, it's an herbicide. So, and I'm not the worst victim. I did have a cancer thing in my left breast. About a dozen years ago, they took it out. But so far, I've been lucky as far as the big C is concerned. So then what happened was, you know what it is? See, you get Agent Orange in your body. And you may not have any effect from it for 20, 25 years. And then the alarm clock goes off, And so I was a long-distance cyclist in the city. I used to ride 10, 11,000 miles a year just in the city. You know, some people don't drive their car that much, you know. And I started falling off the bike, and right around, you know when? Mid-90s. But like from almost, you know, from like, I would say 76 to 95. 96. No, wait. Yeah, 96. That's what I did. I hardly even would take mass transportation or I took my bike everywhere. So that's when things started to change. And then I was in the flight deck at the VA hospital. You know what the flight deck is?
No, I do not.
It's the psych ward for post-traumatic stress disorder veterans. And I was using a cane then, and my cane hit the floor, and there was like coffee or something on the floor, and I went down. And I've been mostly in, well, that's when I was started to use the wheelchair, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, the PTSD clicked in right around that time, too. There's no specific timetable for these things. It depends on the individual. That's the hamstring here.
Yeah. Do you need anything?
No.
You need to shift around? Okay.
And so, you know, and I started being a patient at mostly the Manhattan VA, I guess late 70s. And then I was working for the VA in the 90s and Whole Earth Bakery and Kitchen and driving a taxi. All 3 jobs in 1 week. My God, I was like, my work schedule was like off the books.
Yeah, you've been hustling for forever. I would love to know, you've lived through the creation of the internet and sort of the prolific, the growth of like online pornography. Like you've seen it all. What do you think about what's the biggest change in the evolution of BDSM porn you've seen? And did you create videos in your early days?
No.
That's a more recent thing?
I used to have done videos, but, you know, now I'm more of a consultant. Unless it's just, you know, because, in fact, I told you I'm going to put up a site about fashion modeling, which I've done a lot. I've done 3 shoots for Chris Havana, you know.
Yeah, a great working relationship.
I don't know how I didn't catch up with you, but that was when this lousy boots was starting to bother me, you know. Because I saw, I said, isn't that Tomie? You know? But then, suddenly, then the crowd broke up, but no, I'll tell you this, with the internet, which, you know, I don't like I said, I really don't like, but, you know, I mean, geez, I was still driving taxi, you know, and I mean, you can't imagine. I think about how easy it was, and you're vetting them right there, and cash money, you know. It was like, boy, this is the best setup you could possibly have. And you know what's? I'll be perfectly honest with you. I never sat with another taxi driver and had this conversation. I'm not saying there wasn't anybody else doing it. I'm just saying I don't know anyone that was doing it. You know. And but like I said, listen, a lot of the sex I had in the taxi was for play. I mean, they were just too good, you know. But like I told you, it was the greatest screen, you know. I mean, you work the pavement. It's impossible to not be arrested sooner or later.
I want to move on to this section just for the sake of time. A more playful, fun section called Quickfire, sponsored by I Want Clips. And this will be just quick questions, 1 to 2 sentence answers. We'll go through it quickly. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay, great. Favorite era of New York City?
Favorite era? I probably would say mid-70s.
Favorite part about it?
I mean, it was so alive, it was so raunchy. You could eat places for cheap, you know.
Yeah.
You know what? Let me tell you this, because I hear people, younger, and they say, "Oh, nowadays we do all this freaky shit," and I would say, "Listen, Mo, we just didn't have these fucking phones. We did then. I don't hear anybody doing now. Oh, what's that? Oh, fucking somebody on a stoop in Weehawken Street, piss parties after the Pride March."
Mm-hmm. That's still around 100%.
Oh, but I'm talking about in this street. I'm talking Christopher Street.
Yeah. Have you been to Folsom yet?
You know what?
Do you like Folsom? I mean,
I
that's
was
like the
in
craziest
California
it goes.
for one, and then I had some fucking job that day. Because it's like late June.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think what it was. Maybe I was at it. Oh, I know what it was. I was the honorary Queen Mother of the Year at the Hot Bits Philadelphia Porn Film Festival.
Okay, well,
Where we're showing one of mine, but
we've got to go to Folsom sometime then, because if you miss the crazy raunchiness, like Folsom really brings that together.
Oh.
Like it's on the streets.
I know.
It's everyone, yeah.
But I'm just saying, we did crazy shit,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see many people getting on the stoop in Christopher Street now, you know?
Yeah, bring that back.
I mean, it was like Mardi Gras, and the Pride Parade, you just went from the sidewalk to the street. Now it's like a prison over there.
It's corporate now.
Oh.
You have like Chase Bank sponsoring the Pride March.
I see, I'll tell you what, you know what I do? I go to the Drag March on Friday, the Dyke March on Saturday, and then Reclaim Pride and what we call the corporate march, because a lot of people, they give me this whole rap. I won't go to the corporate march, blah, 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 because, it's so straight, and it's this, and it's that. And they said, don't you agree? And I said, no, I go to every one. Why would you go to a corporate march? You know why? Because how many people have blossomed in the last year? They don't know all that much. So they go. And they said, well, then what happens with them? I said, all the reasons you give me for not going to the corporate march is exactly why we go, to challenge that. Mm-hmm. And then you meet people, you talk to them, and then they find out stuff they didn't know. Mm-hmm. Nobody usually challenges me after I say that, if they have any sense,
Okay, next question. Go-to look when you want to feel absolutely unstoppable.
What was the first part of the sentence?
Go-to look. Like outfit of your choice.
Go-to look?
Yeah, your go-to look.
I was pretty good the night of that Chris Havana runway.
What were you wearing?
I was wearing a pink cap with stones all around, pink latex top, and this filthy dress, chains and. It was really kind of like goth look, and then the pink and lavender boots. Tomie, these motherfuckers were taking. I mean, they wouldn't leave me alone.
They loved it. They loved it.
They did. So I would say that, but honey, you know, I mean, I've walked down the street with Garterbell. Mm-hmm. I have this one duster, and you can just pull it open, and you know, the fishnets, you know. I mean, I'm filthy, honey. I'm not. I'm a slut. What do you want me to tell you? I dress very whore-like. Now, a lot of times in route, I'll have the duster. You know what I mean? But yeah.
I love that. Favorite tattoo on your body?
That's pretty much of a toss-up. I would have to say it would be a tie.
Yeah, between
It
which
would be a
two?
tie between John Brown and slaves, silhouettes of slaves killing their slave owners.
And where's that on your body?
Here, I'll show you.
Yeah. Let's show the camera. The silhouette
I
of
probably
John.
should have worn something more skimpy.
It's
know,
cold. It's
I
cold. We
know.
get it.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And then there's the Knight of Stonewall.
On your other shoulder.
Yeah. With Jeanne d'Arc above. And then here's the Stonewall exactly as it was that night. Right? With the silhouette of drag queens fighting with the cops. Right? Mm-hmm. You can see it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I think if I. And you know what? I had this, right? Mid-90s.
Oh, be careful of the mic. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had this in the mid-90s, but I didn't put the caption until about 5 years ago, right? And I like, I have Frida Kahlo.
I love her. Yeah.
I love women warriors, honey. That's like my favorite hand tattoo. What does it say?
The future is femme.
That's it, baby.
Uh-huh.
And that saved that spot. I wouldn't. Sometimes people put a little saying there. Who's going to see it unless you're at the beach?
Yeah.
Or f***ing somebody. But so I would have to say between those two.
Both are amazing.
They got a mean side. I don't have any dragons, And I want to tell you something else. I carefully consider the composition of a tat and which part of the body I'm going to put it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you have an implement of choice to get your way every time?
Are we talking about in session?
Yeah, let's do in session.
I guess I would have to pick. Like if you went to DomCon, the best time to hit the vendors would be like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 hours before because the prices go down. I got this thing in this bag. Get this. It's a pink, or maybe it's more magenta, dildo. And the head of the dildo is the devil.
That's your implement of choice to get your way every time.
And in fact, one time, you know what I did? Mm-hmm. Do you know what the Idapalooza is?
I don't think
Tennessee.
so. No.
4 or 5 days of lust. And food and art and, music. And it's trans, by trans people of color. And So one time I had it on, and then I took it off and wore it as a bra. And I had the dildo right here. Well, there was a lot of fellatio, including self-fellatio, you know.
I've never thought about going to Tennessee, but now there's one reason that I would visit Tennessee for. What is one thing today's queer community gets right?
Gets right? I don't know. You know, I'm almost want to say being more pro-sex, you know? Like, that was the backlash against Madonna when she was pro-sex. You know, people, you didn't do that, you know. So maybe that, and I think now, I mean, especially the younger members of our community, on social issues. I mean, most sex workers I know, and by the way, I know some right-wing motherfuckers too.
It's crazy when there are right-wing
I know.
dominatrixes.
Oh yeah, they're for Trump and every fucking thing.
Yeah. That's what I think that's what happens when it becomes a little bit more...
A little more what?
When sex work becomes mainstream, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
people who don't have that analysis on power ends up sort of going into this industry and they
haven't been arrested.
Yes, that they didn't grow up poor. They've never been arrested. Like I think those two things changes your perspective on how the whole world works.
And a lot of them really are straight in that sense. I'm not necessarily, because you know what? There is a category of people in the queer community. You know what I call them? Straight, white, gay guys. The only thing that we have in common is an affection for certain appendages. That's it. You know? I mean, I went to this party uptown. This guy, he was a curator at the LGBTQ Museum, Leslie Lohman. Because I was part of an exhibition there about 5-6 years ago called On Our Backs, The Revolutionary Art of Queer Sex Work. And they had an altar there. Oh my God, Tomie, they had me with the candle next to, like, you know, Marsha and Sylvia. I mean, the legends of legends, you know? The queen of queens.
I mean, you are a legend also in New York. Like I hope you fully understand
People
that.
call me goddess sometimes. I kind of, you know, you know, because you know what? Listen, even when I dominatrix, I usually would never call people a piece of shit, you know, good, you know, or as a sub. You know what I did? I topped from the bottom. I mean it. I was billed once as the bottomest of all bottoms because, you know, I would like go out onto the stage and I'd have all red fishnets and then spiked leather garter belt, bra, right? And then I would have like this comme des garçons thing. One button here, one button there, right? And I would walk out on the stage and I would slowly, I would go for the first button and I would say, take. No, what did I? Oh, I would say, this, bitch. Ah! Oh, yeah. Nobody was falling asleep after that.
Amen to that. What is one thing you wish the current queer community remembers about their history, their past?
Well, it's not, there's also part of it is the obstacles to history, but you can almost say that about any community, any section of the earth. I think, see, in our community, and, even in the BDSM King community, you have people who, they're academics. Academics is important. I can do academics. But what am I really comfortable as? Street. I'm a fucking street gutter bitch, And so sometimes my language varies depending on where I am. So I wish people kind of knew more, and especially the sacrifices of people of color in our community, what they went through, how some of them, lack of medical care, whatever, For instance, did you ever hear of a drag queen called International Crisis?
No, but I love her name.
Yeah, big girl too, if you know what I mean. You know what her tit job was? A syringe, Johnson's floor wax, inject, take your tit, and shoot up right there in the nipple. You didn't have no money. You didn't have all this, You see some of these girls now. First of all, I fucking hate the word passing. Because my question is, passing is what? What's that? But there are some people who, maybe it's a little bit the genes, or it is, how would I put this? That they look really, you could say almost like a girl with a, right? A lot of times that's because of these pre-puberty blockers that the parents were very supportive and they started out before, you know what I mean? But I think that if what I would want people to know is it's okay to know the academia, but to some people that's all they know. They don't know how to walk on a sidewalk.
Yeah, people got to put their body into it.
And that's where I talked, maybe I mentioned it to you. I told a lot of people I talked into going straight. Cis people went, sat right by you. To tell them it's good to read Stone Butch Blues, Transgender Warriors, Drag Queen King Dreams. It is. It's important. You should read them. But you need to know the blood, sweat, tears, those who sacrificed everything, their life, a limb, beaten to, listen, I want to know something. I got artificial bone in my face. I can feel that back right now. Not all the teeth that I've lost has been from tooth decay, And you know what? They can kiss my... I ain't going nowhere,
And to end, what is a phrase you live by?
A phrase?
A phrase, a motto, something that you live by.
Well, I think I said it off camera, didn't I, in the beginning? I'd say probably it's a toss-up between when I went from the I Don't Give a club, and then that girl Simone told me hers, and it was Watch Me Not Give a.
And I love that.
But the other one that I kind of stole a little from China, but I kind of, flipped things around and added some words. And that is, when you worry what other people think of you, you will always be their prisoner.
Amen to that. And on that note, watch us not give a thank you so much, Renee, for coming on. And it has been such a wonderful time talking to you and hearing all of your stories. Thank you.
You know what you were now, the last hour? You were my therapist. I need to get a new one because my trans one moved across the country.
I have a fantastic therapist I can connect you.
Oh, do
Yeah,
you?
sliding scale. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll connect you.
Because you know what it is? I have one at the VA, and they're good for the war stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And and by the way, sympathetic to my other lifestyle. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But they can't do it like somebody who deals with us in our community.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, the one that can deal with us in our community can't necessarily do the war stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you need both,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
this is great. I'm looking, did you notice my mood changed? Right, I became effervescent.
I think you were continuously effervescent this entire time. But thank you, Renee.
It's a pleasure.
This is great. I know where the whales are. They're on I Want Clips. For over a decade, I Want Clips has been the home for big spenders and the top earners in fetish. I've been on the platform for years, and trust me, it delivers. Join today and use the code Mx Tomie for 15% off your entire cart. And if you're an artist, you'll get 90% revenue share for your first 3 months. 90%. That is better than any other clip site platform out there. Thank you to I Want Clips for sponsoring this episode of Uncensored. Thanks for watching this episode of Uncensored with Mx Tomie. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're a very good sub. And don't forget to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon, and all the other apps that I'm on. I'll see you on the next one.